Hello friends, it's Kathy Clement with Kathy by Design. Welcome to Wonderful Wednesday. This is the third Wednesday in September, so it's time for us to do our birthday card of the month tutorial. And you get a little bonus this time because I'm going to show you how to fix a card blooper, because I had one when I was making this beautiful card. You'd never know it now, but things looked pretty bad there for a minute. So I'm going to show you how to pull a project out of the fire and make it come back even better than before. We're making this 7x5 cutaway tea party in a box card. And on the inside, we've got a sweet little waterfall feature. And we've got a little tea party in a box with a tea wallet / note card, Biscoff cookies, and a cute little spoon in there. This little chipboard piece over on the side is a really beautiful accent. We're working again this week with Graphic 45's gorgeous autumn greetings. I can't seem to get enough of this paper collection. I don't have a whole lot of it left, so we're going to have to call it a day here pretty soon. But this is the 8x8 pad. I also purchased a few sheets of the images from the 12x12, but that's what I have left. A little bit of ephemera, some of the chipboard frames and tags, and then I'm also using a Susan's Garden woodland wreath. This is from 2021, so you may or may not be able to find it, but it's a great little product, and I like the twiggy wreath for fall and winter. So if you would like to learn how to make this beautiful card and cover up a really bad boo-boo, stick around. The tutorial is coming up next. All right, friends, let's get started making this card. From one sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, I want you to cut a 5 by 11 inch panel, and I want you to score this at 3.5 and 4.5. And then from the offcut, you're going to cut another 5-inch panel. Put 1/4-inch Scor-Tape on this short side and overlap. Just like this. Then trim this so that this is 5.5 by 5, and now you have this long edge sticking out over here, okay? Now I want to go ahead and build a box pocket for the inside. And this is going to measure, you're going to need a piece of your cardstock that is 7 by 3.5. And you're going to score 1/2-inch lines, 2 1/2-inch lines on the left, the right, and the bottom. Then come in with your scissors and you're going to cut this outside rectangle. It's 1/2 inch by 1 inch. You're going to cut that out entirely. Okay, then you're going to cut straight up here and come back and cut just a tiny little skinny triangle out of the inside corner, and that's going to let this fit well inside. So once again, outside, you're just completely removing the 1/2 inch by 1 inch. Inside, you're cutting straight up and then coming in and cutting a little triangle out of the corner. So it looks like that. Come in with your bone folder. Fold your scored lines. So I've got my pocket face down. I'm going to pull these little flaps up, and I'm going to put adhesive on these little flaps that we cut the triangle out of. And then I'm going to fold them in so that we make a nice, neat, square corner. So this is actually gluing into the bottom of the box on our pocket. Fold these side flaps in. Put a little adhesive. And then just hold those in place until they adhere. I'm just going to put little clamps on mine so that that glue has a chance to dry. But you can see we've got a nice, neat square pocket. All right. I've lined my card with colored cardstock, and I've cut two 5 3/8 by 4 7/8. One goes here, one goes here on the inside. Then I also cut two that are 6 7/8 by 4 7/8. I put one here and one on the back. This makes a really nice sturdy card that's going to be able to bear the weight of that box pocket on the cover. I've done 3/8 of an inch by 4 7/8 inch on the spines. Okay, so before we install our box pocket, I cut from my designer paper 5 1/8, and this was just a scrap. This is like 3 3/8, and I matted it on slightly larger kraft cardstock, and we're going to glue this on the top. Just like that. Now I'm going to come in with my box pocket. I'm going to put adhesive on this back flap, on the bottom flap, and the other side flap. And I'm going to glue it down right here. And I'm just pushing my sides in with my thumb to make sure they stay nice and straight. And then I'm going to go inside with my bone folder and just press the sides into place. Then to cover the front of our box pocket, I cut this 4 5/8 by 2 1/8 inch piece of our leaf pattern, matted it on a piece of kraft cardstock, and it's going to go right on the front, slightly larger, just slightly larger on your kraft cardstock, and look, it'll fit perfectly. And if you have scraps of either your plaid or your leaf, you can cover the sides and bottom just with strips, but I'm not going to worry about that. I think we're going to be fine. So now see, this closes up nicely. On the inside, I've cut this 6 5/8 by 4 5/8 of the pumpkin and leaf floral. And I've matted this on a slightly larger piece of kraft because we want this nice and sturdy. So this is going to glue down right here. And then I took this little border piece, matted it on kraft, and the height on this is the same as the height on the designer paper. And we're just going to glue this over on the right-hand side because it's going to look really neat with that cutaway cover. just line that up with your kraft. Just like that. Okay. So now this is what you're going to see from the cover, which is really neat. The cover is another 5 1/8 by 4 5/8 of the leaf pattern matted on a slightly larger piece of kraft, but I don't want to glue this down yet because we're going to work with this. Now I've die cut 2 of these Susan's Garden Woodland Wreath and Feathered Friends. These are older spellbinders, 2021. You might still be able to get them, but I like the size and I like the twigs. I'm just going to dry brush these with a little white chalk paint. So you can see I'm just barely dipping the tip of my brush in there. I'm actually going to brush a little off and then just kind of skim over. I love doing this. It gives the branches a very weathered look. And I did 2 because we're going to stack these, but we're also going to stagger. So I want them to be somewhat, you know, the same top and bottom. So you can see it hardly takes any paint at all. Okay. Now I'm going to come in with my Rusty Hinge Distress ink, and I'm just going to go direct to the paper with this. And I'm just brushing it over it. You could use a sponge dauber or a blending tool if you wanted to, but I like how easy this is. And you get good coverage this way too, in my opinion. It's also really fast. All right, so there's those. See how pretty they're getting? Now I've got some gathered twigs, distress paint. Mine's getting a little gloppy. I've had it a while. So I'm going to tap some out onto my worksheet here. This is just a cellophane bag that some papers came in, and I saved them because I really like the fact that it allows me to do messy jobs like this. I'm just going to mix this all in like mud pies. And then I'm going to spatter. And I need a little more water in there. To spatter well, you really have to have a pretty thin medium going, I find. I don't know, those of you who spatter, is that what you find to be true? That thinner is better? Now, while that paint and ink is still wet, this is an embossing powder. I've just got a clean piece of printer paper underneath. And I'm hoping some of this will still stick. A little bit here and there. So let's try this one. I might spatter again. It took me a minute to find this embossing powder. This is called Dirty Sand, and it's a Seth Apter baked texture. These are a little bit hard to find, and I think they only ship out of Canada, but I'll see if I can't link to them. All right. But anything that kind of has a sort of gritty texture is going to work well for this. And this is just going to give these a little bit of a dimensional look. So I'm going to heat emboss, and I'll be right back. So here's my finish. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but it's very subtle texture. It looks really neat. And I want to stagger these wreaths. I'm going to use dimensional glue dots, and I want one right here. And I'm just going to kind of put these on the 4 compass points of this wreath. Lay this down, and I want to stagger this over it. Now you're going to see those glue dots a little bit, but when I'm finished you won't, because I'm going to add some florals. All right, so here's our cover. I'm going to put our wreath down, and I want one of these to be kind of, you can see they're really sticky right here. There we go. Okay, so that's a good start. Now comes the fun part. We're going to embellish this card. So I've taken one of the chipboard frames, I backed the top of it with a scrap of my designer paper and put a nice heavy piece of waste chipboard behind it. And we're going to glue this down right about here. And I'm going to use the point of my scissors to pull that little branch up. Just want to make sure I'm nice and straight. Then I took these pumpkin ephemera and I put double chipboard here and triple chipboard here. And we're going to go ahead and glue these down too. And these are going to go right here. So you can kind of see that little bit of green polka dot. It just makes a nice dimensional display. So now we're going to create our flowers. And I looked at my stash. I found these Prima flowers. These are old. They're probably from Autumn Sunset or something along those lines. But still really beautiful. And the colors work perfectly with this card. And I've got this one to go right in the center. So we're looking really good here. I've tied a bow with cappuccino satin ribbon with a gold edge. I'm going to tuck this in right here in the corner. And I'm going to use my scissor point to get this placed where I want it. There we go. And then while that glue is setting, I'm just going to pull out my tails. Make those loops go the way that I want them to go. And I've got this little, sweet little dangle charm. I'm not sure. I think I want to put it up here with a button. But before we do that, I've got these ephemera flowers, and we're going to put a little chipboard on the back. And you can use foam tape if you want. I go back and forth between using foam tape and chipboard. Depends on what I have handy on my desk, you know. So these are going to tuck in right here. And then from the paper collection, I took this adorable, that little squirrel gets me every time. He's so stinking cute. And we're just going to tuck him in back behind these pumpkins like that. So pretty simple, really. It's a pretty basic card, nothing overly fancy about it. I'm going to look for a button to go over my little charm right here. The last thing I'm going to do is just add this little title. I feel like this sort of grounds everything. And I tried it with it and without it, and I decided I liked it better with it. So that finishes our card cover. All right, friends, let me ask you a question. What do you do when the unthinkable happens and you put your card together upside down, which is what I just did? This cover is 5.5 by 5, but I oriented everything at 5 by 5.5, so it wouldn't fit. And I didn't realize it until it came time to attach it to the cover. So I got out my heat gun. I softened all the glue. This is why I don't glue things down, because I could do that from the back. And I carefully began to start removing elements from the card. And I used my hot glue. I used my heat gun to heat up any blobs of hot glue. And I took a piece of chipboard and scraped it. I can see I need to do a little more work right here, but I think that's going to be covered up, so we're going to be okay. So now that we're oriented in the right direction, I'm going to show you how to fix this major boo-boo. And that's actually kind of a really good tutorial. So I might call this one, What to Do When the Unthinkable Happens. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where I want to place this. I've got this little leaf that I'm going to hot glue right here to cover up that mess. Then I've got this little flower cluster that I'm going to hot glue to cover up that mess. Now I'm going to come in with my original piece and I'm going to glue it down like I did before. I've got this little flower that I'm going to tuck in, maybe right on top of my, yeah, that's a good plan. Right on top of my frame, like that. So we're looking good. I think we're going to be okay. Now I'm going to bring in my flower and bow cluster. Yep, I think we're good. And I'm going to put it right here. So I'm just going to put, fortunately, it stayed together and it didn't suffer any damage. So that was pretty cool. My youngest son, who was born old and wise beyond his years, used to say to me all the time, nothing good ever comes of panic. And so if you stay calm, see, now that looks really good. I can see a little bit of a glue dot up here, but we're going to take our button and our charm. I think I'm straight here. This looks pretty good. Put a little hot glue right here. Put that down. So you see, that was a disaster, but we averted it with a little bit of clever camouflage and the use of our heat tool. No, that's too big. Take that out. And now this card is going to be absolutely beautiful. So the last step in this repair process was to heat up the glue residue that was along here and sprinkle on some German glitter glass. Same thing up here where the glue dot and a little bit of glue residue was. And now it just looks like I added a little bit of fall sparkle, and this card is absolutely gorgeous. So there you go. That's what you do when the unthinkable happens. I'm going to let this glitter dry. I'll show you the inside of the card. Here's our little box pocket dressed up with some cutout pieces. I made a little tea wallet with room for a note. There's a tea bag and some honey crystals, a really sweet imported Italian espresso spoon, Biscoff cookies to go with the tea, and this all lives in this little pocket over here. I made a little kinetic waterfall. And on this side piece, I added a chipboard with copper brads, and I put foam tape back behind that. That keeps the brads from moving around. Brads just do that. So really sweet, not too hard to make. Our when the unthinkable happens, card repair, birthday card of the month tutorial. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, and let me hear from you in the comments section. Did you enjoy seeing me fix this blooper? And that's it for me. I'll be back next week with our flower of the month tutorial. Kathy Clement, Kathy by Design. Go get your craft done. Bye.